Hi everyone, so for this project I chose to do The Sun is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. The novel follows our two main characters, Natasha and Daniel, throughout the course of one day in New York City. We have Daniel, who's a hopeless romantic and a poet. His parents are Korean immigrants, and they want the American dream for him. And for them, that means going to medical school, meeting a nice Korean girl, and living happily ever after. This is not the future that Daniel wants for himself, but he also feels obligated to be the good, perfect son. So he is on his way to an interview for medical school. We have Natasha, who is a firm believer in science and facts, and the fact is that her family is scheduled to be deported by the end of the day. She is talking to different people, trying to stop the deportation, and she actually ends up getting a meeting set up with an attorney who is supposedly the best, and she has a little bit of hope that maybe she'll get to stay. While Natasha is on the way to go to her meeting, Daniel is on the way to go to his interview, and they meet, and Daniel feels like this girl is the one. It's fate. They're meant to be together. And he doesn't even know her. Just by looking at her, he feels connected to her. Natasha is a little bit more skeptical. But for whatever reason, she decides to spend the day with Daniel. And Daniel swears that by the end of the day, by spending time together, going through a list of questions he has, she will fall in love with him. He has no idea that she will most likely be deported by the end of the day, but they spend the day together anyway. Daniel takes her to places that he loves, karaoke, his favorite Korean restaurant. They go to Daniel's family store and meet his brother. They meet his father, who is a little bit racist. He does not like Natasha, but that's also because he feels that his son needs to be with a Korean girl. They go on and they actually end up getting into a really big fight. Daniel learns that Natasha is going to be deported. He's pissed off, really, because he feels like she lied to him and he wasted his entire day with her for nothing. Natasha feels like it's not entirely her fault because she didn't want him to fall in love with her in the first place. She thought that was silly. She doesn't believe in fate. She doesn't believe in destiny. And she really just doesn't believe in love. They go their separate ways. And Natasha goes to her interview or her meeting with Attorney Fitzgerald. And the meeting goes very well. He tells her that he can definitely stop the deportation. He knows the exact judge that he needs to speak to. And when she leaves, the only person she wants to see and tell is Daniel. So she travels to his family store and she is able to get his phone number from his brother Charlie, and she calls him and they meet back up, and it's a really happy moment. You can feel the relief that she's feeling, the hope that he is feeling, and they spend time together. We find out that Daniel's interview is taking place in the same building that Natasha had her meeting, and so they hang out on the rooftop and just spend some time together. When it's time for Daniel's interview, he goes downstairs and finds out that Attorney Fitzgerald that Natasha had her meeting with is actually the person doing Daniel's interview. And so Daniel is ecstatic. He tells him thank you, how happy he is that he was able to keep his the love of his life in the United States. But unfortunately, Attorney Fitzgerald says that he could not stop the deportation. He says that he just was unable to do it. We find out later that he actually didn't even speak to the judge. Daniel is extremely unhappy. He's very, very sad, and he feels like he needs to be the one to tell Natasha. So he does. He goes and he tells her, and they're both extremely upset, but they want to spend the remaining time that she has in the United States together. So they go back to the roof and spend some more time just being with each other. They go to Natasha's family's apartment. He meets her family, and they take a cab ride together to the airport, and they say their goodbyes. During the epilogue, we see Natasha on an airplane, and the person sitting next to her is actually someone that she met at the beginning of the novel. The woman tells her that because of Natasha, she chose not to commit suicide. And somehow the person sitting behind Natasha is Daniel. And when the two realize that they are on the plane together, you can sense the happiness between them and that there's still love there. And so we're left believing that maybe fate is real. Maybe there is destiny. And maybe love at first sight is a real thing. But that's where we're left. So we're kind of left wanting more, kind of on a cliffhanger, because we don't know what happens after that. Personally, I absolutely love the novel. It was a quick read. I actually read it all in one day. It reminded me of a novel that I read in high school that I really, really liked. It was called When It Happens. That novel was similar. Each chapter went back and forth between the two main characters' perspectives. The only difference is that Nicola Yoon really expanded on that in this novel. Not only do we have chapters from Daniel and Natasha, we also get to see minor characters. We have chapters from both of their fathers. We have chapters from things that are a little more existential. We have chapters on fate, and we have a chapter from the universe's perspective. We have eyes and hair and time and distance. And so we really expand on that and see deeper into how everyone's actions impact each other, and that we kind of see how small we are really when we're seeing the universe's perspective on love and fate and destiny. So I really, really liked the novel. I thought it was a great read. I would recommend anyone reading it. The content wasn't too deep, but it was kind of an emotional roller coaster a little bit, because we see it starts off and, Daniel's the hopeless romantic and Natasha doesn't believe in fate, but then Natasha starts to fall for Daniel, and Daniel loses his belief in hope and destiny, but they meet each other again. And so it kind of is a roller coaster of emotions, and I really enjoyed it, and I would recommend it. I think as a learning tool that this would be a great novel for around, I would say, 8th graders or 9th graders, just because it is a quick read and it's an easy read. I think that'd be a great time for them to talk about it. As for how I would teach it, I would have it done in groups, at least for just discussion of the novel. I think that would be most beneficial, because we are talking about concepts that are a little bit more abstract, talking about destiny and fate, things that not everybody believes in. So I think, and first love, really. So I think groups would be a good opportunity, because you would get to hear the perspective of the various students, and they could build off of each other. And maybe some of the students are like Daniel, and they wholeheartedly believe in fate and destiny. And some of the students could have Natasha's perspective, where they don't believe in it at all. And so it would be really cool to see how they interact with each other, and the students can kind of feed off of that discussion. I think that they could maybe talk about it with, they would want to talk about it with other classes too, just because the characters are in high school themselves. And so I think it would be a really good novel to teach in school, but maybe not to older students. They could do a little bit deeper of discussions, but as for 8th and 9th graders, I think it would be the perfect reading level for them. And yeah, that's my book talk, and that's how I felt about it, and that's how I would use it in the classroom. Thank you.